Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science channel. Tonight we'll be exploring the extraordinary world of insects. A realm hidden in plain sight, filled with wonder, complexity, and endless fascination. Around us, beneath our feet, in the air we breathe, insects live their quiet lives. They crawl through soil, they hover among flowers, they build elaborate homes, and they communicate in ways we're only beginning to understand. The insect world is both familiar and alien, something we encounter every day yet barely notice. If you enjoy these quiet explorations, I invite you to like and subscribe or share a simple thought down in the comments. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is rest, settle in, and allow the calm of the insect world to carry you. Let's begin. The ancient origins. Insects have walked the earth for over 400 million years, long before dinosaurs. When you see an ant crossing your path, or a butterfly landing on a flower, you're witnessing the success of the most ancient survivors. Insects appeared in the fossil record during the Devonian period, crawling from the primordial seas onto land. They were among the first creatures to colonize the terrestrial world, adapting to every environment they encountered. Long before the first dinosaur took its first breath, insects had already diversified into thousands of forms. They survived the great extinctions that wiped out countless other species. They witnessed the rise and fall of the giant reptiles, and they continue to thrive today, outnumbering all other animals combined. To observe an insect is to look at a living fossil, a creature whose basic body plan has endured through epochs of change. Insects were the first animals to achieve powered flight, soaring through ancient skies. Imagine Earth, 350 million years ago. The continents were arranged differently. Strange plants covered the landscape, and the air was thick with oxygen. In this alien world, insects took to the skies, becoming the very first animals to fly. Long before birds, before bats, before pterosaurs, insects mastered the art of flight. Dragonfly ancestors, with wingspans of over 2 feet, patrolled prehistoric swamps, hunting smaller insects with precision and speed. This evolutionary breakthrough gave them access to new food sources, new territories, and new ways to escape predators. Flight transformed insects from ground dwellers into 3-dimensional navigators. The wings they developed were not modified limbs like in birds or bats, but entirely new structures, outgrowths of their exoskeletons. This unique innovation allowed insects to dominate the skies for millions of years, unchallenged by any other creature. When you watch a dragonfly hover today, you're seeing the refinement of the Earth's very first flying machines. Over 1 million insect species have been identified, but millions more remain undiscovered. Scientists have named and catalogued more than 1 million different species of insects, an astonishing diversity that dwarfs all other animal groups. Beetles alone account for nearly 400,000 described species. But this is only the beginning. Entomologists estimate that the true number of insect species may be anywhere from 5 to 10 million, perhaps even more. In tropical rainforests, researchers discover new species almost daily. A single tree in the Amazon can host hundreds of insect species found nowhere else on Earth. Many insects live in remote locations, in the canopy of forests, deep in soil, or in caves where humans rarely venture. Each discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of insect diversity. The world of insects is so vast that we've only begun to document its inhabitants. With every expedition, every survey, every careful examination of leaf litter or tree bark, new species emerge from obscurity. The insect world is a reminder of how much life exists beyond our notice. Insects make up more than half of all known living organisms on the planet. When we think of animals, we often picture mammals, birds, fish, or reptiles. But these groups are tiny compared to the dominance of insects. Of all the species that have been scientifically described on Earth, more than half are insects. They represent the majority of animal diversity, the most successful body plan evolution has ever produced. This success comes from their adaptability. Insects have conquered nearly every habitat on the planet, from scorching deserts to frozen tundra, from mountain peaks to ocean shores. They've evolved to eat almost anything: wood, blood, nectar, dung, other insects. Their small size allows them to exploit niches too small for other animals. Their rapid reproduction lets them adapt quickly to changing environments. When you consider all life on Earth, insects are not a footnote. They are the main story, the dominant form of animal life that shapes ecosystems around the globe. The insect body. The insect body is divided into 3 distinct sections: head, thorax, and abdomen. Every insect, from the tiniest firefly to the largest beetle, shares a fundamental body plan. 3 segments define their form. The head houses the brain, eyes, and mouth parts. The thorax, the middle section, carries the legs and wings. And the abdomen contains the digestive and reproductive organs. This 3-part design is remarkably efficient, allowing for specialization of each segment. The head can be equipped with crushing mandibles or delicate sucking tubes depending on the insect's diet. The thorax provides powerful muscles for flight or jumping. The abdomen can expand to hold food, eggs, or defensive chemicals. This modular architecture has allowed insects to adapt to countless ecological roles while maintaining their basic structure. Whether an insect burrows through wood, swims through water, or dances in the air, its 3-part body provides the foundation for its lifestyle. This consistent blueprint across millions of species speaks to the elegance of insect evolution. Insects have 6 legs, a defining characteristic that sets them apart from spiders and other arthropods. 6 legs. This simple feature defines what it means to be an insect. Not 8 like spiders, not dozens like centipedes, but exactly 6. These legs emerge from the thorax, the muscular middle section, 3 on each side. This 6-legged design provides stability and flexibility, allowing insects to walk, run, jump, climb, and grasp with remarkable coordination. Each leg is segmented and jointed, capable of complex movements. Some insects have evolved specialized legs. Praying mantises have front legs modified into grasping tools for catching prey. Water striders have long legs that distribute their weight across water surfaces. Grasshoppers have powerful hind legs built for explosive jumps. Bees have legs equipped with pollen baskets for carrying food back to the hive. Despite these modifications, the 6-leg pattern remains constant. When you see a creature with 6 legs, you know you're looking at an insect, a member of the most diverse group of animals on Earth. An exoskeleton of chitin protects the insect body like armor. Unlike humans with our internal skeletons, insects wear their structure on the outside. This external skeleton, or exoskeleton, is made primarily of chitin, a tough, flexible material similar to the substance in our fingernails. The exoskeleton serves multiple purposes. It provides structural support, anchoring muscles and giving the body shape. It acts as armor, protecting soft internal organs from injury and attack. It prevents water loss, a critical adaptation for small creatures that would otherwise dry out quickly. The exoskeleton is also waterproof, coated with waxes that repel moisture. But this rigid outer shell comes with a limitation. To grow, insects must shed their exoskeleton periodically in a process called molting. The old exoskeleton splits open, and the insect crawls out, soft and vulnerable. Its new exoskeleton hardens over time, allowing the insect to grow larger. This cycle repeats several times throughout an insect's life. The exoskeleton is a masterpiece of natural engineering, lightweight yet strong, protective yet flexible enough to allow for intricate movements. Most adult insects have 2 pairs of wings, though some have only 1 or none at all. Flight is one of the insect's greatest achievements, and wings are their tools for conquering the air. Most flying insects have 4 wings, 2 pairs emerging from the thorax. These wings are thin membranes supported by a network of veins, like tiny sails stretched across a framework. Dragonflies and damselflies have 4 wings that beat independently, allowing for incredible aerial acrobatics. Butterflies and moths have wings covered in tiny scales that create their vibrant colors. Beetles have modified their front wings into hard covers called elytra, protecting the delicate flight wings underneath. Flies, true to their name, have only 2 functional wings, with the rear pair reduced to small balancing organs called halteres. Some insects have lost their wings entirely through evolution. Worker ants and termites are wingless, adapted for life on the ground. Fleas abandoned flight in favor of powerful jumping legs. Yet even wingless insects carry the legacy of their flying ancestors. Evidence of paths evolution has taken as insects adapted to every conceivable lifestyle. Compound eyes give insects a mosaic view of the world around them. When you look into the eyes of a fly or a dragonfly, you're seeing something fundamentally different from your own eyes. Insect eyes are compound, made up of thousands of individual units called ommatidia. Each ommatidium captures a small piece of the visual field, like a pixel in a digital image. The insect's brain combines these fragments into a complete picture, a mosaic view of the world. This design has advantages. Compound eyes provide a wide field of vision, sometimes nearly 360 degrees, making it hard to sneak up on many insects. They're excellent at detecting motion, which is why it's so difficult to swat a fly. The more ommatidia an eye has, the better the resolution. Dragonflies can have up to 30,000 ommatidia in each eye, giving them sharp vision for hunting on the wing. Some insects also have simple eyes called ocelli on top of their heads, used for detecting light levels. The world as seen through compound eyes is different from ours, perhaps sharper in some ways, detecting movements and patterns we might miss, creating a reality uniquely suited to insect life. Antennae serve as sensitive organs for smell, taste, and touch, rising from an insect's head, often moving constantly, are its antennae. These remarkable structures are sensory powerhouses, far more sophisticated than they might appear. Covered in tiny receptors, antennae can detect chemical signals in the air, essentially allowing insects to smell and taste their environment. A moth can detect the pheromones of a potential mate from miles away, following an invisible scent trail through the darkness. Ants use their antennae to communicate with nestmates, exchanging information through touches and chemical signals. Antennae also sense vibrations, air currents, and humidity. Some insects, like male mosquitoes, have feathery antennae tuned to detect the wing beat frequency of females. Beetles often have clubbed or branched antennae specialized for different tasks. The diversity of antennae shapes reflects the diversity of insect lifestyles. Long, thread-like antennae might belong to a nocturnal insect navigating by scent. Short, stubby antennae might be found on a fast-flying predator. These delicate organs are among the first things an insect moves when exploring, constantly sampling the world, gathering information we can barely imagine. Insect senses Many insects can see ultraviolet light invisible to human eyes. When you look at a flower, you see colors from red to violet, the spectrum visible to human eyes. But if you could see as a bee sees, the flower would look entirely different. Many insects perceive ultraviolet light, a part of the spectrum beyond violet that we cannot detect. To them, flowers display patterns and colors we've never witnessed, nectar guides pointing toward pollen and rewards. These UV patterns are like landing strips for pollinators, visible only to those who can see in ultraviolet. White flowers that look plain to us might be brightly patterned to a bee. The ability to see UV light helps insects identify flowers, find mates, and navigate their environment. Some butterflies use UV reflections on their wings to communicate with potential partners. Others use it to distinguish between different plant species. This hidden spectrum creates an insect world more colorful and complex than the one we perceive. Every time you see a bee visiting a flower, remember that it sees something you cannot. A secret language of light, written in ultraviolet. Moths and other nocturnal insects can navigate using the moon and stars. Long before humans invented compasses and GPS, insects were navigating vast distances using the celestial sphere. Nocturnal insects, particularly moths, use the moon as a navigational reference. By maintaining a constant angle to the moon, they can fly in straight lines across the landscape. This works beautifully under natural conditions, but it explains why moths spiral toward artificial lights. They try to keep a constant angle to what their instincts tell them is the moon, but because the light is close rather than distant, they end up circling inward until they reach the source. Some insects can also use the pattern of polarized light in the sky, invisible to our eyes but clear to theirs. Dung beetles navigate using the Milky Way, the first known case of an insect using stellar patterns for orientation. Even on cloudy nights, some insects can detect the position of the moon through clouds using polarization patterns. These ancient navigation systems have guided insects for millions of years, allowing migrations across continents and precise homing to nests and territories. Bees perform dances to communicate the location of flowers to their hive mates. Inside the darkness of a beehive, an extraordinary communication unfolds. When a forager bee discovers a rich source of nectar, she returns home and performs a dance on the vertical honeycomb. If the flowers are nearby, she does a circular dance, moving in tight loops. But if the food source is distant, she performs the famous waggle dance. She runs in a straight line while waggling her abdomen, then circles back and repeats. The angle of her waggle run relative to vertical indicates the direction of the flowers relative to the sun. The duration of the waggle indicates the distance. The vigor of her dance tells other bees how good the source is. Other bees crowd around, following her movements, reading the directions encoded in her dance. Then they fly out, armed with precise coordinates to flowers they've never visited. This dance language was decoded by scientist Carl von Frisch, who won a Nobel Prize for this discovery. It remains one of the most sophisticated forms of communication in the animal kingdom. Inside every hive, geography is written in movement, and foragers speak in the language of dance. Some butterflies migrate thousands of miles across continents. Migration is often associated with birds or whales, but some insects undertake journeys just as remarkable. Monarch butterflies, delicate creatures weighing less than a gram, travel up to 3,000 miles from North America to specific forests in Mexico. No individual butterfly makes the round trip. Instead, it takes multiple generations. Monarchs that emerge in late summer are different from their parents and grandparents. They live longer, up to 8 months instead of a few weeks, and they feel an irresistible urge to fly south. They travel to places they've never been, using an internal compass and the position of the sun somehow finding the exact same trees their ancestors roosted in years before. In spring, they mate and begin the journey north, but they don't complete it. Their offspring continue north, and their offspring after them, until by late summer, the cycle begins again. Painted lady butterflies migrate even farther, traveling from Africa to Europe and beyond in massive waves. These migrations involve billions of individuals, painting the sky with orange and black, a river of life flowing across continents. Crickets and cicadas sing by rubbing body parts together, not with vocal cords. On warm summer evenings, the air fills with the singing of crickets, a sound as much a part of the season as fireflies and warm breezes. But crickets don't have vocal cords or voice boxes. Instead, they make music through stridulation, rubbing specialized body parts together. Male crickets have a file-like ridge on one wing and a scraper on the other. By lifting their wings and rubbing them together, they create the familiar chirping sound. The frequency and pattern of chirps are species-specific, with each kind of cricket singing its own song. Cicadas create sound differently, using membranes called tymbals on their abdomen. Muscles contract and release the tymbals rapidly, creating loud clicks that resonate in hollow chambers, amplifying the sound. Male cicadas can be among the loudest insects, their collective chorus reaching over 100 decibels. Grasshoppers rub their hind legs against their wings. Beetles create sounds by scraping body parts. Each species has its own method, its own song. These sounds are primarily for courtship, males advertising their presence to females, but they also serve to establish territories and communicate danger. The evening soundscape is a symphony of mechanical music, each insect an orchestra of one. Ants leave pheromone trails that other colony members follow to food sources. Ants, walking in single-file lines, seem to know exactly where they're going, following invisible highways across kitchen counters and garden paths. These highways are chemical trails, pheromone paths laid down by scouts who've found food. When a foraging ant discovers something edible, she takes a sample and heads back to the nest, dragging her abdomen along the ground as she goes. This deposits a trail of pheromones, chemical signals that her nestmates can detect with their antennae. Other ants emerge from the nest and follow the scent trail to the food source. If the food is valuable, they reinforce the trail on their return, making it stronger. More ants follow, creating a positive feedback loop. The trail becomes a busy highway of workers. Once the food is exhausted, ants stop reinforcing the trail, and it fades away, evaporating into the air. Different pheromones convey different messages. Alarm pheromones warn of danger. Trail pheromones lead to food. Nestmate pheromones identify members of the same colony. This chemical communication system allows ant colonies to function like superorganisms, with thousands of individuals coordinating their actions without any central control. Fireflies flash light from their abdomens to attract mates in the darkness. Summer nights in many parts of the world come alive with tiny lights, blinking on and off in the darkness like earthbound stars. These are fireflies, also called lightning bugs, and their glow is one of nature's most enchanting displays. The light is produced through a chemical reaction in specialized organs in the firefly's abdomen. Chemicals called luciferin and luciferase combine with oxygen to produce light with almost no heat, a process called bioluminescence. Each firefly species has its own flash pattern, a specific rhythm and duration of flashes that acts like a signature. Males fly through the air, flashing their pattern. Females wait in vegetation, watching. When a female sees the pattern of her species, she flashes back. The male sees her response and flies toward her, and they exchange signals until he finds her. This silent conversation of light takes place in the warm darkness. a language of blinks and glows. Some firefly species synchronize their flashing, entire trees lighting up in perfect coordination, creating one of nature's most spectacular displays. The reason for synchronization is still debated, perhaps increasing the visibility of the display or reducing competition among males. Insect life cycles. Most insects undergo metamorphosis, transforming from one form to another during their lives. The life of an insect is often a story of transformation. Unlike mammals that are born looking like smaller versions of their parents, many insects pass through distinct life stages, each with a completely different appearance and lifestyle. This process is called metamorphosis, and it's one of the most remarkable features of insect biology. There are two main types. In incomplete metamorphosis, young insects called nymphs hatch from eggs, looking somewhat like adults, but smaller and without wings. They grow through a series of molts, gradually developing adult features. Grasshoppers, dragonflies, and true bugs undergo incomplete metamorphosis. But the most dramatic transformation is complete metamorphosis. Insects, like butterflies, beetles, flies, and bees hatch as larvae, completely different from the adults they'll become. A caterpillar looks nothing like a butterfly. A grub bears no resemblance to a beetle. These larvae exist solely to eat and grow. Then comes the pupal stage, a period of reorganization where the larval body breaks down and reforms into the adult structure. Finally, the adult emerges, ready to reproduce. This two-form lifestyle allows insects to exploit different resources at different life stages, reducing competition between young and old. A caterpillar's body liquefies inside a chrysalis before becoming a butterfly. The transformation from caterpillar to butterfly is so profound it seems almost magical. Inside the protective casing of a chrysalis, something extraordinary happens. The caterpillar's body doesn't simply grow wings and change shape. Instead, most of its tissues break down into a cellular soup. Digestive enzymes dissolve muscle, organs, and other structures, reducing the caterpillar to a liquid rich in proteins and nutrients. But not everything dissolves. Certain groups of cells called imaginal discs, which have been dormant throughout the caterpillar's life, now activate. These discs carry the blueprint for the adult butterfly. They use the nutrient soup to build entirely new structures: compound eyes, long legs, wings, antennae, a different digestive system designed for drinking nectar instead of chewing leaves. Over days or weeks, the butterfly takes shape inside the chrysalis. When the transformation is complete, the adult ecloses, splitting open the chrysalis and emerging into the world. Its wings are crumpled and wet. It pumps fluid into them, expanding them to full size, then waits for them to dry and harden. What emerges bears little resemblance to what went in. It's a complete reinvention, one of the most dramatic transformations in nature. Dragonfly nymphs live underwater for years before emerging as flying adults. The dragonflies you see darting over ponds and streams spend only a fraction of their lives in the air. Most of a dragonfly's life is spent underwater as a nymph. Dragonfly nymphs are fierce predators of the aquatic world, hunting tadpoles, small fish, and other aquatic insects with an extendable jaw that shoots forward to grab prey. Depending on the species, a dragonfly may spend anywhere from a few months to several years in this underwater stage, molting repeatedly and growing larger. When the time finally comes, driven by hormones and environmental cues, the nymph climbs out of the water onto a plant stem or rock, usually at night. There it undergoes its final molt. The exoskeleton splits down the back, and the adult dragonfly slowly pulls itself free. This emergence is called eclosion. The adult is pale and soft at first, its wings crumpled. Over several hours, it pumps hemolymph, its blood equivalent, into its wings, expanding them. The exoskeleton hardens, colors develop, and by morning, a creature of water has become a master of the air. The empty exoskeleton, called an exuvia, remains clinging to the stem, a ghost of the nymph that was. Some cicadas remain underground as nymphs for 17 years before emerging. Beneath your feet, in the soil of forests and gardens, cicada nymphs wait in darkness. They're feeding on sap from tree roots, growing slowly, molting periodically, but otherwise doing very little. For most cicada species, this underground stage lasts a few years, but for periodical cicadas in North America, the wait is astonishingly long. Depending on the species, they remain underground for either 13 or 17 years. Scientists still debate why these specific prime numbers, though it may relate to avoiding predators or parasites that emerge on different cycles. After over a decade in the soil, when the right conditions arrive, the nymphs dig their way to the surface. They emerge by the millions, sometimes billions, all at once in a massive synchronized event. They climb trees, molt into adults, and fill the air with deafening songs as males call for mates. They live as adults for only a few weeks, long enough to reproduce. Females lay eggs in tree branches. The eggs hatch, and the tiny nymphs drop to the ground and burrow into the soil, beginning the long wait again. Their synchronized emergence is an adaptation to overwhelm predators. Birds and other animals feast on the cicadas, but there are so many that plenty survive to reproduce. Mayflies live as aquatic nymphs for years, but adults survive only hours or days. Mayflies hold a melancholy record in the insect world. Their adult stage is among the shortest of any creature. After spending a year or more, sometimes several years, living as nymphs in streams and rivers, mayflies emerge into their adult form for one brief purpose: to reproduce. Adult mayflies have vestigial mouthparts. They cannot eat. They survive on energy reserves from their nymphal stage. Some species live as adults for only a few hours. Others manage a day or two at most. During this brief window, they must find a mate, reproduce, and lay eggs. Male mayflies form swarms above the water, dancing up and down in coordinated movements. Females fly into these swarms to mate. After mating, females lay their eggs on the water surface and then die. Males die shortly after mating. Entire hatches of mayflies can coat bridges and streets near rivers, their bodies piling up like snowdrifts. Their ephemeral existence has inspired poets and philosophers. A life measured in hours, yet complete. They remind us that duration is not the measure of a life's purpose. Beetles undergo complete metamorphosis, one of the reasons for their incredible diversity. Beetles are the most diverse group of insects. Indeed, the most diverse group of any organisms on Earth. One reason for their success is their life cycle. Beetles undergo complete metamorphosis, passing through egg, larva, pupa, and adult stages. This allows larvae and adults to occupy completely different ecological niches, reducing competition between young and old. Beetle larvae are incredibly varied. Some are grubs that live in soil, others bore through wood. Some are aquatic, many are predators, others are decomposers. The larval stage is primarily for growth and feeding. Once the larva reaches full size, it pupates, often in the soil or in a chamber it has created. Inside the pupal case, the transformation occurs. The larva's body reorganizes into the adult form. When the adult emerges, it has the characteristic hardened front wings, called elytra, that cover and protect the delicate hind wings. Adult beetles range from tiny to enormous, from jewel bright to dull brown. from slow-moving to swift flyers. They occupy nearly every habitat and ecological role. This developmental flexibility, combined with their protective elytra, has allowed beetles to radiate into over 400,000 known species, with many more yet to be discovered. Social insects. Honeybees live in colonies with a single queen and thousands of workers. A beehive is a city in miniature, a society as complex as any human civilization in many ways. At the center is the queen, the colony's mother, the only reproductive female. She can live for several years, spending her days laying eggs, up to 2,000 per day during peak season. The vast majority of bees in the hive are her daughters, sterile female workers. These workers perform all the tasks necessary for colony survival. Young workers clean cells and feed larvae. Middle-aged workers receive nectar from foragers and convert it to honey. They also produce wax to build comb. Older workers venture outside as foragers, flying from flower to flower, collecting nectar and pollen. The hive also contains a few hundred males called drones, whose only purpose is to mate with new queens. Drones don't work, don't defend the hive, and are expelled before winter to conserve resources. This division of labor allows the colony to function efficiently, with each bee playing a role. The queen's presence is maintained through pheromones she secretes. If the queen dies or her pheromones weaken, workers can create a new queen by feeding a larva a special diet of royal jelly. The colony is a superorganism, thousands of individuals acting as one. Leafcutter ants cultivate underground fungus gardens for food. Deep beneath the rainforest floor, leafcutter ants maintain elaborate farms. These remarkable insects don't eat the leaves they harvest. Instead, they cut leaves into manageable pieces and carry them back to their enormous underground nests. The ants can defoliate entire trees, marching in long columns with leaf fragments held aloft, like tiny green parasols. Inside the nest, in special chambers, the leaves are chewed into pulp and used as a growing medium for a fungus. The ants carefully tend these fungus gardens, weeding out competing molds, adjusting humidity and temperature, and harvesting the fungus as food. The fungus grows in specialized structures called gongylidea, which are rich in proteins and easily digested by the ants. This mutualistic relationship has been going on for millions of years. The fungus has evolved to depend on the ants, and the ants cannot survive without it. Different castes of worker ants perform different roles in the farming operation. Large soldiers defend the colony. Medium workers cut and transport leaves. Tiny workers tend the gardens. The smallest workers ride on the leaf fragments being carried by their larger sisters, guarding against parasitic flies that try to lay eggs on the workers. Leafcutter colonies can contain millions of individuals and live for decades, their fungus gardens passed down like a family farm. More social insects. Termites build towering mounds with built-in climate control systems. In the grasslands of Africa and Australia, massive earthen structures rise from the ground, some reaching heights of over 30 feet. These are termite mounds, architectural marvels built by blind insects weighing a fraction of a gram. Inside, millions of termites live in a complex society. Like ants and bees, termite colonies have a queen, much larger than the workers, who lays thousands of eggs per day. Unlike bees and ants, termites are not closely related to them, but evolved social behavior independently. Termite workers are both male and female, and they tend the gardens where termites grow fungus on chewed wood. What makes termite mounds truly remarkable is their built-in climate control. The mounds are not solid, but contain a network of channels and chambers. The design creates airflow that ventilates the nest, drawing in fresh air and expelling carbon dioxide. Some species construct tall chimneys that enhance this circulation. The temperature and humidity inside remain remarkably constant despite fluctuations outside. This allows the fungus gardens to thrive, providing food for the colony. The mound also protects against predators and floods. These structures can last for decades, generations of termites repairing and expanding their ancestral home. Paper wasps build nests from chewed wood fibers mixed with saliva. Watch a paper wasp at work, and you'll witness the origins of papermaking. These wasps scrape tiny bits of wood fiber from dead trees, fences, or weathered wood. They chew these fibers, mixing them with saliva, breaking down the wood into a pulp. Then they fly back to their nest and use this pulp to construct hexagonal cells, spreading it thin and allowing it to dry into a paper-like material. The nest hangs from a single stem, usually under an eave or branch, protected from rain. Paper wasp colonies are smaller than honeybees or hornets, typically containing a few dozen to a few hundred individuals. The colony is founded by a single queen who emerges from hibernation in spring. She builds the first cells, lays eggs, and raises the first generation of workers. These daughters then take over nest building and foraging, while the queen focuses on laying more eggs. Each cell holds a single larva, and adult wasps can be seen feeding them. Unlike bees, paper wasps do not store food in their nests. They hunt caterpillars and other insects, chewing them into pulp to feed their larvae. When larvae mature, they pupate in their cells, capping them with silk. The adults emerge, chew through the cap, and join the workforce. By late summer, the colony produces males and new queens who mate. The new queens find shelter for winter, while the rest of the colony dies when cold weather arrives. Some ant species keep aphids like livestock, milking them for honeydew. Ants have independently domesticated other insects, creating a relationship remarkably similar to humans raising cattle. Many ant species tend aphids, small sap-sucking insects that feed on plant juices. Aphids extract more sugar from sap than they need, excreting the excess as a sweet liquid called honeydew. Ants have learned to harvest this honeydew. They stroke aphids with their antennae, stimulating them to release droplets, which the ants eagerly drink. In return, ants protect their aphid herds from predators like ladybugs, going so far as to fight off larger insects that threaten their livestock. Some ants build shelters for their aphids or move them to better feeding sites. In winter, certain ant species take aphid eggs into their nests, keeping them safe until spring, when they carry the newly hatched aphids back to plants. A few ant species have even taken this relationship to an extreme, keeping root-feeding aphids permanently underground in their nests. These aphids have evolved to depend entirely on their ant caretakers, unable to survive in the outside world. This mutualism between ants and aphids has existed for millions of years, an interspecies partnership that benefits both. Bumblebees generate heat by vibrating their flight muscles to warm their nests. In cooler climates, bumblebees face a challenge that honeybees avoid. They must restart their colonies from scratch each spring. A queen bumblebee emerges from hibernation, her body fueled by stored fat. She searches for a nest site, often an abandoned mouse burrow or a hollow in the ground. Once she finds a suitable spot, she builds a small wax pot and fills it with nectar and pollen. She lays her first batch of eggs and sits on them, but unlike a bird, she generates heat not with her body, but with her flight muscles. Bumblebees can decouple their wings from their flight muscles and contract those muscles rapidly, generating heat without flying. This process, called thermogenesis, warms the developing eggs and larvae. The queen must forage to keep herself fed during this time, leaving her brood periodically to gather more pollen and nectar. Her first daughters are small workers who take over foraging and nest building. As the colony grows, workers maintain nest temperature collectively. Bumblebees can forage in cooler weather than honeybees because of their ability to generate heat. On cool mornings, you might see a bumblebee shivering on a flower, warming up before taking flight. This heat production allows bumblebees to thrive in northern regions where other bees cannot. Slave-maker ants raid other colonies and steal their pupae to raise as workers. Among ants, some species have evolved a disturbing strategy. Rather than raising their own workers, they steal the workforce of other colonies. Slave-maker ants conduct raids on colonies of other ant species. Scout ants locate a target nest, then return and recruit a raiding party. The raiders storm the colony, fighting through the defenders. Their goal is not food or territory, but pupae. The raiders carry pupae back to their own nest. When these stolen pupae hatch, they imprint on the slave-maker colony, treating it as their own. They perform all the tasks they would have done in their birth colony: foraging, caring for brood, maintaining the nest, but they do it for their captors. The slave-maker ants themselves often do little work beyond raiding. Some species have evolved such specialized raiding behavior that they've lost the ability to feed themselves or care for their own young. Without captured workers, the slave-maker colony would perish. This parasitic lifestyle has evolved multiple times in different ant lineages. It's a strategy built on deception and exploitation, proof that even in the insect world, not all societies are built on cooperation. Insect defenses. Many caterpillars have spines or hairs that deliver painful stings. Caterpillars seem vulnerable, soft-bodied creatures slowly munching leaves. But many species have evolved formidable defenses. Numerous caterpillars are covered in spines or hairs, called setae. Some of these are harmless, simply making the caterpillar less palatable, but others are hollow and connected to venom glands. When touched, these spines break off in the skin and release toxins that cause pain, itching, and inflammation. The puss caterpillar, larvae of the southern flannel moth, looks like a tiny wig, but is actually covered in venomous spines, hidden beneath soft fur. A brush against one can cause intense pain, lasting for hours. The saddleback caterpillar has prominent spines at both ends and a distinctive saddle-shaped marking. Its sting can cause nausea and even more severe reactions in sensitive individuals. These defenses are highly effective. Birds and other predators learn quickly to avoid brightly colored or hairy caterpillars. The bright colors often serve as warning signals, advertising the caterpillar's defenses. This is called aposematism. Some harmless caterpillars even mimic the appearance of venomous ones, gaining protection without the cost of producing venom. The lesson is clear: not every soft-looking creature is helpless. Bombardier beetles spray boiling hot chemicals at attackers from their abdomen. When threatened, the bombardier beetle deploys one of the most impressive chemical weapons in nature. Inside its abdomen, the beetle has two separate chambers. One contains hydroquinones and hydrogen peroxide. The other contains enzymes called catalases and peroxidases. When danger strikes, the beetle mixes these chemicals in a reinforced reaction chamber. The catalases cause the hydrogen peroxide to decompose explosively, generating oxygen and heat. This reaction heats the mixture to boiling, around 100 degrees Celsius. The pressure forces the boiling, toxic spray out through a nozzle at the beetle's rear, which the beetle can aim with remarkable precision. The spray not only burns, but also contains toxic quinones that irritate and repel predators. The beetle can fire multiple times in rapid succession, each burst accompanied by an audible pop. This defense system is so effective that bombardier beetles have few natural predators. The evolution of this system has fascinated scientists for years. Each component alone offers some defense, but together they create a weapon that seems almost engineered. It's a powerful example of how natural selection can produce solutions of remarkable complexity. Stick insects and walking sticks are masters of camouflage, resembling twigs and branches. In the forests and gardens where they live, stick insects are nearly invisible. Their bodies are long and thin, perfectly mimicking the twigs and branches of their host plants. They move slowly, swaying slightly, as if blown by wind. Some species have ridges and bumps that resemble bark texture. Others have lobes on their legs that look like leaves. Their coloration matches the vegetation around them, from bright green to brown to gray. During the day, they remain motionless, becoming part of the background. At night, they cautiously feed on leaves, then resume their twig-like pose before dawn. This mastery of disguise, called crypsis, protects them from birds and other visual predators. Some stick insects take camouflage even further. Leaf insects not only resemble leaves in shape, but also in color and venation. When threatened, they may sway gently to enhance the illusion of a leaf moving in the breeze. One species found in Malaysia looks so much like a dead leaf that it even has false holes and brown patches mimicking decay. The effectiveness of this camouflage is remarkable. You can stare directly at a stick insect and not recognize it as a living creature. Only movement gives them away. Monarch butterflies are toxic to predators because their caterpillars feed on poisonous milkweed. Monarch butterflies are famous for their beauty and their epic migrations, but they're also famous for being poisonous. As caterpillars, monarchs feed exclusively on milkweed plants, which contain toxic compounds called cardiac glycosides. These toxins interfere with heart function in vertebrates, causing nausea and vomiting if ingested. The monarch caterpillars are immune to these toxins. As they feed, they sequester the poisons in their bodies. When they transform into butterflies, they retain these toxins. Any bird that tries to eat a monarch quickly regrets it. The experience is so unpleasant that birds learn to avoid monarchs after a single encounter. The monarch's bright orange and black coloration serves as a warning signal, advertising its toxicity. This warning coloration is so effective that other butterflies have evolved to mimic monarchs. The viceroy butterfly, once thought to be a harmless mimic, is now known to be distasteful in its own right, creating a system where multiple toxic species share similar warning patterns, reinforcing the message to predators. Not all monarch populations are equally toxic. Monarchs raised in areas with less toxic milkweed species carry fewer toxins, but they still benefit from their warning colors, as long as most monarchs in the population are indeed poisonous. Trapjaw ants have mandibles that snap shut faster than any other animal movement. Among the fastest movements in the animal kingdom belongs to a tiny ant. Trapjaw ants have mandibles that can snap shut at speeds up to 145 miles per hour, closing in less than 1,000th of a second. These ants hold their mandibles open at an angle, locked by a latch mechanism. Sensitive hairs on the mandibles detect prey or threats. When triggered, the latch releases, and powerful muscles snap the mandibles shut with incredible force. The impact is strong enough to kill or stun prey instantly. But trapjaw ants have discovered another use for their explosive mandibles: escape. When threatened, an ant can aim its open jaws at the ground and trigger them. The force of the mandibles hitting the ground launches the ant into the air, sending it flying away from danger. This is called a mandible-powered jump, and it can propel the ant several inches, many times its body length. For such a small creature, it's an impressive feat of ballistics. The speed and power of trapjaw ant mandibles have inspired researchers studying rapid movements in small mechanisms, potentially informing the design of tiny robots and other micro-devices. These ants prove that some of the most extreme adaptations are found in the smallest creatures. Hoverflies mimic the appearance of bees and wasps to deter predators. Hovering at flowers, feeding on nectar, some insects look remarkably like bees or wasps. But look closer. They have only 2 wings instead of 4, and they don't sting. These are hoverflies, also called flowerflies, masters of mimicry. Many hoverfly species have evolved to resemble stinging insects. They sport yellow and black stripes, buzzy flight patterns, and similar body shapes. To a bird or other predator, the resemblance is close enough. Having learned to avoid the painful sting of bees and wasps, predators also avoid anything that looks similar. This is called Bayesian mimicry, where a harmless species mimics a dangerous one. The hoverfly pays none of the costs of producing venom or a sting, but receives all the benefits of the warning coloration. Different hoverfly species mimic different models. Some resemble honeybees, others bumblebees, still others wasps. The mimicry can be so convincing that even experienced naturalists must look closely to tell them apart. Hoverflies are beneficial insects, their larvae eating aphids, and their adults pollinating flowers. Their disguise is not meant to deceive us, but to survive in a world where looking dangerous is sometimes the best defense. Insect abilities. Some moths can hear the ultrasonic calls of hunting bats. Bats hunt moths at night using echolocation, emitting high-frequency calls and listening for echoes that reveal flying insects. It's a sophisticated hunting technique, but moths have evolved countermeasures. Many moth species have developed ears, simple organs on their thorax or abdomen that can detect ultrasonic frequencies. When a moth hears a bat's calls, it takes evasive action. If the bat is far away, indicated by quiet calls, the moth might simply turn and fly in the opposite direction. But if the bat is close, revealed by loud calls, the moth executes emergency maneuvers, spiraling, looping, or folding its wings and dropping toward the ground in an erratic tumble. These unpredictable movements make it difficult for the bat to target the moth. Some moths go a step further, producing their own ultrasonic clicks. These sounds may jam the bat's echolocation, confuse it, or even warn the bat that the moth is toxic. Tiger moths in particular use this acoustic defense. They contain toxins from plants they ate as caterpillars and click to advertise their unpalatability. Bats learn to associate the clicks with bad taste and avoid clicking moths. This evolutionary arms race between bats and moths has been going on for millions of years, each side evolving new tactics. Fleas can jump over 100 times their body height. For their size, fleas are among the champion jumpers of the animal world. A flea is only a few millimeters long, but it can leap up to 18 centimeters vertically and 33 centimeters horizontally. Scaled to human size, that would be like jumping over a 50-story building. How do fleas accomplish this feat? Their secret is a remarkable protein called resilin, one of the most elastic materials known in nature. Fleas compress resilin pads in their hind legs, storing energy like compressing a spring. When they release, the stored energy launches them into the air at accelerations over 100 times gravity. The jump happens so fast that fleas were once thought to use their legs like catapults, but high-speed photography revealed the truth about resilin's role. This jumping ability serves multiple purposes. Fleas are external parasites of mammals and birds, and they need to reach hosts that are much taller than they are. A flea on the ground can detect vibrations, heat, and carbon dioxide from a passing animal and launch itself upward to intercept its target. Once on board, They use their backward-pointing spines and claws to anchor themselves in fur or feathers, making them difficult to dislodge. Their flattened bodies help them slip between hairs, and their tough exoskeletons protect them from scratching. Water striders walk on the surface of water using surface tension. On ponds and streams, you might see insects skating across the water surface, seemingly defying gravity. These are water striders, and they exploit a property of water called surface tension. Water molecules are attracted to each other, creating a sort of elastic skin on the water's surface. Water striders have long legs, covered in thousands of tiny hairs that trap air, making the legs hydrophobic. When a water strider stands on water, it doesn't break through the surface. Instead, it creates dimples, depressions in the water's surface. The water pushes back against these dimples, supporting the insect's weight. Water striders row across the surface using their middle legs, while their hind legs steer and their front legs capture prey. They're predators, feeding on insects that fall onto the water. They can detect the ripples made by struggling prey from several inches away and quickly skate over to investigate. Some species of water striders live on the open ocean, the only insects that do. They congregate around floating debris and sargassum seaweed, hunting small marine creatures. The ability to walk on water has allowed water striders to exploit a habitat that few other predators can access, hovering between two worlds, air and water. Dung beetles can navigate using the Milky Way. Dung beetles have an unusual and unglamorous lifestyle. They feed on feces, rolling balls of dung away from the source to bury and eat in peace. But what's remarkable is how they navigate. A dung beetle shapes dung into a ball, then rolls it away in a straight line as quickly as possible. Moving in a straight line is important because other beetles will try to steal the dung ball. But how does the beetle maintain a straight course? Researchers discovered that dung beetles can orient using the Milky Way. On moonless nights, when individual stars are harder to see, dung beetles use the bright band of the Milky Way as a compass. This makes them the first known insect to navigate using the galaxy. During full moon nights, they use the moon. On cloudy nights, when no celestial cues are available, they're less efficient, often circling. The beetles climb on top of their dung balls periodically, performing a little dance where they rotate in place. This dance helps them take a snapshot of the sky, updating their internal compass. The beetles have sensors on top of their heads that detect polarized light patterns in the sky, invisible to human eyes, but clear to them. This sophisticated navigation system helps a humble beetle engaged in unglamorous work maintain its course through the night. Some dragonflies can fly backward, hover, and perform aerial acrobatics. Dragonflies are the fighter jets of the insect world. Their flight capabilities exceed those of nearly any other insect. Unlike most insects whose wings are coupled and beat in synchrony, dragonfly wings operate independently. Each of the four wings is controlled by separate muscles, allowing unprecedented maneuverability. Dragonflies can fly forward at speeds up to 35 miles per hour. They can hover in place, holding position while scanning for prey or mates. They can fly backward, a feat few insects can manage. They can perform sudden right-angled turns, barrel rolls, and other aerial acrobatics that would make a stunt pilot jealous. This agility makes them formidable hunters. Dragonflies catch prey on the wing, snatching mosquitoes, flies, and other insects out of the air with their spiny legs. Studies show they have a catch rate of over 95%, making them one of the most successful predators on the planet. They hunt by sight, and their compound eyes provide nearly 360-degree vision. They can calculate the trajectory of moving prey and intercept it mid-flight. Researchers studying dragonfly flight have found that their wings create complex vortices that enhance lift and thrust. This has inspired designs for micro-drones and other flying robots. The dragonfly, ancient and unchanged for millions of years, still has much to teach us about the art of flight. Ants can carry objects many times their own body weight. Ants are famous for their strength. A leafcutter ant can carry a leaf fragment many times heavier than itself. Certain ant species can lift up to 50 times their body weight and carry it back to the nest. If a human had proportional strength, you could lift a car over your head. But this comparison is somewhat misleading because of scaling. Smaller creatures have a higher strength-to-weight ratio due to the physics of how muscles and skeletons scale. Still, ants are impressively strong for their size. Their strength comes from their muscle structure and their exoskeleton, which provides excellent anchoring points for muscles. Ants often work cooperatively to move objects too large for a single individual. You might see dozens of ants working together to drag a dead grasshopper or carry a piece of bread. They coordinate their efforts through pheromones and physical communication, adjusting their positions until the object moves. Some ant species form living bridges with their bodies, allowing other workers to cross gaps. This cooperative behavior amplifies their individual strength, allowing ant colonies to manipulate their environment in ways that would be impossible for solitary insects. The strength and cooperation of ants have made them among the most successful insects, dominating many ecosystems. Insect habitats. Insects have colonized nearly every habitat on Earth, except the open ocean. From the frozen tundra of the Arctic to the scorching sands of the Sahara, from mountain peaks to deep caves, insects have established themselves in virtually every terrestrial habitat. They thrive in rainforests where humidity never drops, and in deserts where rain may not fall for years. They live in freshwater streams, lakes, and ponds. Some even live in temporary pools that exist for only a few weeks. Insects burrow into soil, inhabit leaf litter, bore through wood, and make homes in the nests of other animals. They've adapted to extreme heat and extreme cold. Some Antarctic midges can survive being frozen solid. Desert beetles have evolved behaviors and structures to collect water from fog. The one major habitat insects have not fully conquered is the open ocean. While some insects live on the ocean surface, like the marine water striders mentioned earlier, and intertidal zones have specialized insects, the vast pelagic ocean remains an insect-free zone. This is likely because insects breathe through spiracles, openings in their exoskeleton that connect to a network of tubes delivering oxygen directly to tissues. This respiratory system works well in air but not underwater, making it difficult for insects to compete with crustaceans and other marine arthropods. Everywhere else, insects have found a way. More insect habitats. Desert insects have evolved remarkable adaptations to conserve water. In deserts, water is precious, and insects have developed ingenious ways to obtain and conserve it. Many desert insects are nocturnal, avoiding the heat of the day by hiding under rocks or burrowing into sand. The Namib desert beetle collects water from fog. Early in the morning, it climbs to the crest of a sand dune and tilts its body, raising its bumpy back toward the fog-laden wind. The bumps on its back are hydrophilic, attracting water droplets, while the valleys between are hydrophobic. Fog condenses on the bumps and rolls down into the valleys, channeling water toward the beetle's mouth. Engineers have studied this beetle to design water-collecting surfaces for arid regions. Other desert insects have waxy coatings on their exoskeletons that minimize water loss. Many have the ability to produce very concentrated waste, excreting uric acid as nearly dry crystals rather than liquid urine. Some desert locusts can remain dormant for long periods. Their metabolism slowed, waiting for rain. When it finally comes, they emerge, reproduce rapidly, and their populations explode. Desert ants navigate using the sun and polarized light patterns, allowing them to find their way back to nests across featureless sand. These adaptations make life possible in one of Earth's harshest environments. Cave-dwelling insects often lose their eyes and pigmentation over evolutionary time. Deep in caves, where sunlight never reaches, a unique community of insects has evolved. Cave environments are stable, with constant temperature and humidity, but they're also food-poor and utterly dark. Insects adapted to caves, called troglobites, often show remarkable changes. Many have lost their eyes entirely, having no use for vision in perpetual darkness. Their bodies are often pale or white, lacking pigmentation since there's no sunlight to cause damage, and no predators relying on vision. Their antennae and legs are elongated, providing enhanced tactile and chemical sensing to navigate and find food in the dark. Metabolism slows down in the cave environment, where food is scarce. Many cave insects have long lifespans and slow reproductive rates compared to their surface relatives. Food in caves comes primarily from organic matter, washed in from outside, bat guano, or fungi. Cave crickets are common, venturing out of caves at night to forage and returning during the day. Some cave-adapted beetles feed on bat guano or the remains of dead animals. Each cave system often has unique species found nowhere else, isolated populations that have diverged over thousands or millions of years. Caves are like islands, breeding grounds for endemism and specialization. Arctic insects survive extreme cold by producing antifreeze compounds in their blood. When winter grips the Arctic, temperatures plunge far below freezing. Yet some insects not only survive, but remain active. Arctic insects have evolved antifreeze proteins and glycerol in their hemolymph, their blood equivalent. These compounds lower the freezing point of their body fluids, preventing ice crystals from forming and damaging cells. Some species can survive temperatures down to -60 degrees Celsius. The Arctic woolly bear caterpillar has one of the most extreme cold adaptations. It spends most of the year frozen solid. During the brief Arctic summer, it thaws, feeds on Arctic plants, then freezes again as winter returns. This cycle repeats for up to 14 years before the caterpillar finally pupates and becomes a moth. Most of its life is spent in suspended animation, frozen in time. Other Arctic insects time their life cycles to take advantage of the short growing season. Some flies and midges can develop from egg to adult in just a few weeks, completing their entire life cycle during the warmest months. Despite the harsh conditions, Arctic ecosystems support diverse insect communities, from mosquitoes that swarm in massive clouds to beetles that tunnel through frozen soil. These insects are crucial food sources for migratory birds and other Arctic wildlife. Many insects live in the canopy of rainforests, a habitat taller than skyscrapers. Tropical rainforests are among the most biodiverse places on Earth, and much of that diversity lives not on the ground but in the canopy, the upper layers of the forest where treetops form a continuous cover. The canopy can be 100 feet or more above the ground, a world of perpetual sunlight, leaves, flowers, and fruit. This is the realm of insects. Scientists who study canopy insects often use special techniques like canopy cranes, platforms, or rope climbing to access these heights. In one famous experiment, researchers fogged entire trees with insecticide and collected the insects that fell. From a single tree species in Panama, they collected over 1,200 species of beetles alone, most previously unknown to science. Many canopy insects are specialized, feeding on specific plants or living in particular microhabitats like epiphytes or tree holes. The canopy is a three-dimensional world with layers and niches, providing countless opportunities for specialization. Some insects never descend to the ground in their entire lives. Ants build nests in tree hollows, beetles bore into branches, and caterpillars feed on leaves they never leave. The canopy is a frontier of discovery, with new species described regularly. Aquatic insects have evolved gills, snorkels, or air bubbles to breathe underwater. Many insects have returned to the water, their ancestors' ancient home, and evolved ways to breathe in an aquatic environment. Some aquatic insect larvae, like those of mayflies, dragonflies, and damselflies, have gills that extract dissolved oxygen from water. These gills may be external feathery structures or internal, hidden inside the body. Water flows over or through the gills, and oxygen diffuses into the insect's blood. Other aquatic insects breathe air but have adapted various methods to access it. Diving beetles and water bugs trap air bubbles against their bodies using hydrophobic hairs. They swim carrying this bubble, which acts as a physical gill, oxygen from the water, diffusing into the bubble as the insect uses it. Mosquito larvae hang from the surface with breathing tubes called siphons, snorkeling at the water's edge. Rat-tailed maggots, the larvae of hoverflies that live in stagnant water, have telescoping breathing tubes that can extend several inches to reach the surface from the muddy bottom. Some aquatic insects even have plastrons, permanent air layers held by dense hydrophobic hairs that allow continuous gas exchange without the insect needing to surface. These diverse breathing strategies have allowed insects to exploit freshwater habitats worldwide. Termites and other insects can digest wood, breaking down cellulose with help from gut microbes. Wood is abundant, but nutritionally challenging. Cellulose, the main component of wood, is difficult to digest. Yet termites, wood-boring beetles, and some other insects thrive on diets of wood. Their secret is symbiosis. Inside the guts of termites live protozoa, bacteria, and other microorganisms that produce enzymes to break down cellulose into simpler sugars the termite can absorb. The termite provides a safe, food-rich environment for the microbes, and the microbes provide the termite with nutrients it couldn't access on its own. This partnership is so essential that termite nymphs must acquire gut microbes by feeding on fecal droplets from nestmates, a behavior called proctodeal trophallaxis. Without these microbes, a termite would starve, despite having a gut full of wood. Wood-boring beetle larvae also rely on microbial partners, though their symbionts are often bacteria or fungi. Some ambrosia beetles even farm fungi, inoculating tunnels with fungal spores and feeding on the resulting growth. This ability to digest wood has allowed insects to exploit a resource few other animals can use, turning dead trees into thriving ecosystems. Insect reproduction. Some insects reproduce without mating, through parthenogenesis. In most species, reproduction requires a male and female, but some insects have evolved alternative strategies. Parthenogenesis is reproduction without fertilization. Females produce offspring from unfertilized eggs. In some species, this happens occasionally, while in others, it's the primary or only method of reproduction. Aphids are famous for this. During spring and summer, female aphids give birth to live young, all female, all clones of their mother. This allows populations to explode rapidly when food is abundant. In autumn, aphids switch to sexual reproduction, producing males and females that mate and laying eggs that survive winter. Stick insects often reproduce parthenogenetically. Some populations contain no males at all, with females producing only daughters generation after generation. Certain wasps also use parthenogenesis, though in a twist, unfertilized eggs become males, while fertilized eggs become females. This system, called haplodiploidy, has interesting evolutionary consequences and is part of the reason eusocial behavior evolved in bees, ants, and wasps. Parthenogenesis provides flexibility, allowing rapid population growth and colonization of new habitats without needing to find a mate. However, it reduces genetic diversity, which can be a disadvantage when environments change. Male fireflies and crickets compete through displays of light and sound. In the world of insects, males often compete for female attention, and they've evolved elaborate displays. Male fireflies flash their lights in species-specific patterns, advertising their presence to females, but they're also competing with other males. The brightness and timing of flashes matter. Females prefer males with brighter, longer flashes, which may signal better genes or health. In some species, males synchronize their flashes, creating coordinated light shows. This might reduce competition by overwhelming females with choices, or by making the collective display more visible to distant females. Male crickets sing by rubbing their wings together, each species producing a unique song. Females listen and choose based on song quality. Males with faster chirp rates or louder songs tend to be preferred, possibly because these traits indicate age, size, or vigor. But singing has costs. It requires energy, and it attracts not only females but also predators and parasitic flies that home in on the song. Males must balance the need to advertise with the risk of being found by enemies. In some populations, silent satellite males lurk near singing males, intercepting females attracted by another male's song, a sneaky alternative strategy. Some female insects store sperm for months or years, controlling when they fertilize eggs. After mating, many female insects store sperm in specialized organs called spermathecae. This allows them to fertilize eggs at their own pace, long after the male is gone. Queen honeybees mate during a brief period early in life, often with multiple males during a single mating flight. They store the sperm from these matings and use it to fertilize eggs for the rest of their lives, which can be several years. They can control whether eggs are fertilized, producing female workers and new queens from fertilized eggs, and males from unfertilized eggs. Some ant queens can live for decades, fertilizing eggs from sperm stored years earlier. In butterflies and moths, females may mate once or several times, and they store sperm from each mating. Some can even select sperm from different males, using genetic quality cues to choose which sperm fertilizes which eggs. This gives females significant control over reproduction, allowing them to time egg laying to match favorable conditions and to exert choice over paternity even after mating has occurred. Sperm storage is an adaptation that increases reproductive success in environments where mates are scarce, or where the best time to reproduce doesn't coincide with the best time to mate. Many insect eggs are laid on specific host plants, ensuring food for hatching larvae. For insects with larvae that have specific dietary needs, the female's choice of where to lay eggs can determine her offspring's survival. Female butterflies, for example, are selective about where they deposit eggs. A monarch butterfly seeks out milkweed, the only plant her caterpillars can eat. She tastes the leaf with receptors on her feet, confirming it's the right species before laying an egg. Other butterflies have equally specific requirements. The larvae of many insects are less mobile than adults, so the female's choice is critical. A female beetle boring into wood ensures her larvae will have food when they hatch. A parasitic wasp lays eggs inside or on other insects, and her larvae will consume the host from within. Some insects have elaborate egg-laying structures called ovipositors that allow precise placement. Certain parasitic wasps can drill through wood to reach beetle larvae inside, inserting their eggs with surgical precision. The process of selecting egg-laying sites is driven by chemical cues, visual signals, and sometimes complex behaviors. This maternal investment, choosing the right place for eggs, is one of the few forms of parental care in most insect species, which typically don't tend their young after hatching. Insects can produce thousands of offspring in a single generation. Insect reproductive potential is staggering. A single queen termite can lay tens of thousands of eggs over her lifetime. A queen honeybee lays up to 2,000 eggs per day during peak season. Aphids can give birth to dozens of offspring, and those offspring can mature and reproduce within a week, leading to exponential population growth. In just one summer, a single aphid could theoretically give rise to billions of descendants if all survived. Of course, mortality is high. Predators, parasites, disease, and environmental hazards kill the vast majority of insect offspring before they reach adulthood. But the sheer number of eggs produced ensures that enough survive to continue the species. This high reproductive rate is part of what makes insects so successful. They can rapidly exploit favorable conditions, quickly colonize new habitats, and recover from population crashes. It also means insects can evolve quickly, with more generations per year than most other animals, allowing natural selection to act rapidly. The downside is that individual offspring receive little to no parental care. Most insect parents never see their young, having laid eggs and moved on. Success is a numbers game, quantity over quality. Some male insects provide nuptial gifts of food to females during courtship. In certain insect species, males woo females not just with displays, but with gifts. Male dance flies catch small insects and present them to females during courtship. The female feeds on the gift while mating occurs, and the larger or better the gift, the longer she feeds, allowing more time for sperm transfer. Some crafty males have been observed wrapping gifts in silk, sometimes even wrapping inedible objects or empty husks, essentially giving fake gifts. Females can assess gift quality, and those deceived may cut mating short. Male katydids, long-horned relatives of grasshoppers, produce a large gelatinous structure called a spermatophore that contains both sperm and nutrients. After mating, the female eats the nutritious outer part of the spermatophore, while sperm are transferred from the inner part. The male's investment in this gift increases the likelihood that his sperm will fertilize eggs. In some butterflies, males transfer nutrients during mating that the female incorporates into her eggs, increasing offspring survival. These nuptial gifts may benefit females by providing resources, but they also serve male interests by extending mating duration, reducing female receptivity to other males, or increasing offspring quality. Courtship in insects is a negotiation where both partners have interests to advance. Insect ecology. Insects are crucial pollinators, essential for the reproduction of many plant species. Walk through a garden or meadow in bloom, and you'll witness one of nature's most important relationships: pollination. Insects visiting flowers transfer pollen from one bloom to another, fertilizing plants and enabling them to produce seeds and fruit. Over 80% of flowering plant species rely on animal pollinators, and insects do most of this work. Bees are the most famous pollinators, with honeybees and bumblebees visiting countless flowers as they gather nectar and pollen. But many other insects pollinate as well. Butterflies and moths, flies, beetles, and even some wasps move pollen as they feed. Some plants have evolved close relationships with specific pollinators. Certain orchids can only be pollinated by specific species of bees or moths, their flowers shaped to fit the pollinator perfectly. Yucca plants and yucca moths have a mutualism so tight that neither can survive without the other. The moth pollinates the yucca while laying eggs in its flowers, and the moth larvae feed on some of the seeds, leaving enough to ensure the plant reproduces. Without insect pollinators, many ecosystems would collapse. Crops also depend on them. Apples, almonds, blueberries, and many other foods require insect pollination. The decline of pollinators in recent years has raised alarms, highlighting how interconnected our world is. Many insects are decomposers, breaking down dead plants and animals. Death is not the end in nature, but the beginning of a new process. When a plant or animal dies, decomposers break down the remains, returning nutrients to the soil. Insects are among the most important decomposers. Carrion beetles, fly larvae, and others consume dead animals, accelerating decay. Blowflies arrive at a carcass within minutes of death, laying eggs that hatch into maggots. These maggots feed voraciously, liquefying tissues and consuming them. Forensic entomologists study these insects to estimate time of death in criminal investigations, using the predictable succession of insect species that colonize bodies. In forests, termites, beetles, and their larvae break down dead wood, turning fallen trees into soil over years or decades. Without wood-eating insects, forests would be choked with logs. In leaf litter, countless tiny insects shred dead leaves, mixing them into the soil and allowing fungi and bacteria to complete the decomposition. Dung beetles bury animal waste, enriching soil and reducing disease. Decomposer insects are nature's recyclers, ensuring that nutrients locked in dead matter are released back into ecosystems. They close the circle of life, transforming endings into new beginnings. Predatory insects help control populations of other insects, including pests. Insects are not just prey. Many are skilled predators. Ladybugs, both adults and larvae, consume aphids by the hundreds, keeping pest populations in check. Lacewings, with delicate green wings, have larvae so voracious they're called aphid lions. Praying mantises ambush and devour any insect they can catch, including large grasshoppers and even other mantises. Dragonflies and damselflies patrol waterways and fields, catching mosquitoes and flies on the wing. Assassin bugs use their sharp beaks to inject enzymes into prey, liquefying the insides and sucking them out. Ground beetles hunt at night, capturing slugs, caterpillars, and other soft-bodied creatures. These predators provide natural pest control, reducing the need for pesticides in agriculture and gardens. Farmers and gardeners encourage beneficial predators by providing habitat and avoiding broad-spectrum insecticides that kill both pests and predators. The balance between prey and predator is delicate, a dance of survival where populations rise and fall in response to each other. Predatory insects remind us that nature has its own checks and balances, systems that have been regulating populations for millions of years. Some insects are parasitoids, laying eggs inside other insects. Parasitoids are among the most fascinating and gruesome creatures in the insect world. They lay their eggs in or on other insects, and their larvae consume the host from the inside, eventually killing it. Parasitoid wasps are the most diverse group. Some are tiny, barely visible, while others are large and conspicuous. A female wasp locates a host, often a caterpillar, beetle larva, or aphid, using chemical cues. She uses her ovipositor to inject eggs into the host. The wasp larvae hatch and begin feeding, carefully avoiding vital organs at first to keep the host alive as long as possible. The host continues to feed and grow, unaware it's doomed. When the wasp larvae are fully grown, they either emerge from the host or consume the remaining organs, killing it, then pupate nearby. Some parasitoids manipulate host behavior. The caterpillar, parasitized by certain wasps, acts as a bodyguard for wasp cocoons, defending them against predators even though it will soon die. Parasitoid flies also exist, using similar strategies. These insects are important for biological control, keeping pest populations in check. Scientists study and sometimes release parasitoids to combat agricultural pests, using natural enemies instead of chemicals. Insects are a vital food source for countless animals, from birds to fish. Insects form the base of many food webs, converting plant material into protein that fuels entire ecosystems. Birds time their breeding seasons to match peaks in insect abundance, feeding their chicks on protein-rich caterpillars and flies. Swallows and swifts catch insects on the wing, performing aerial ballet as they snatch mosquitoes and midges. Bats consume mosquitoes and moths by the thousands every night. Fish feast on aquatic insects and those that fall onto the water's surface. Trout, rising to take mayflies, is an iconic image of freshwater streams. Amphibians like frogs and salamanders rely heavily on insects. Reptiles from lizards to chameleons hunt insects, as do many small mammals. Even bears eat insects, tearing apart logs to reach beetle larvae, or raiding bee nests for honey and brood. Without insects, these animals would struggle to survive. The disappearance of insects would send shockwaves up the food chain, affecting predators at every level. Insects convert sunlight and plants into animal biomass more efficiently than almost any other group. They are the hidden engine of ecosystems, small in size but enormous in importance. Ants aerate soil and disperse seeds, acting as ecosystem engineers. Though small, ants have an outsized impact on their environments. An ant nest can move tons of soil over time, bringing subsoil to the surface and mixing layers. This aeration improves soil structure, allowing water and air to penetrate, benefiting plant roots. Ant tunnels create channels for water infiltration, reducing runoff and erosion. Many ants are seed dispersers. They collect seeds and carry them back to their nests, attracted by nutritious appendages called elaiosomes. The ants eat the elaosome and discard the seed, often in nutrient-rich waste piles inside the nest. This myrmecochory, seed dispersal by ants, benefits many plant species, giving their seeds a head start in a favorable location away from the parent plant and protected from seed predators. Some plants have evolved specifically to attract ant dispersers. Ants also influence plant communities by selectively moving certain seeds and not others, shaping plant diversity. In addition, ants prey on or compete with other insects, affecting herbivore populations and indirectly protecting plants. Their activities ripple through ecosystems, altering soil chemistry, plant distribution, and food webs. Ants are ecosystem engineers, creatures that modify habitats in ways that affect many other species. Insect communication. Many insects communicate through chemical signals called pheromones. In the insect world, smell is often more important than sight or sound. Insects release pheromones, chemical signals that convey specific messages to other members of their species. These molecules drift through the air or are deposited on surfaces, carrying information over distances. Sex pheromones are perhaps the most well-studied. A female moth releases a pheromone plume into the night air, and males miles away detect it with their feathery antennae, following the concentration gradient to find her. Trail pheromones, as we've discussed, help ants and termites mark paths to food. Alarm pheromones alert colony members to danger. When a bee stings, she releases alarm pheromone that recruits other bees to defend the hive. Aggregation pheromones bring individuals together, helping bark beetles mass attack trees or ladybugs cluster for hibernation. Queen pheromones in social insects suppress reproduction in workers, maintaining colony structure. These chemical languages are invisible to us, but form complex communication networks. Each species uses its own set of pheromones, sometimes dozens of different compounds with specific meanings. The air is alive with messages we cannot read, a world of invisible information flowing between insects. Grasshoppers and katydids sing by rubbing legs or wings together. On summer evenings, the sound of grasshoppers fills the air, a rhythmic chirping that rises and falls. Male grasshoppers produce sound by rubbing a row of tiny pegs on their hind legs against the hardened edge of their forewings, a process called stridulation. Each species has its own song, a specific rhythm and pitch. Some sing during the day, others at night. Katydids, relatives of grasshoppers, create sound by rubbing their forewings together, one wing bearing a file of ridges and the other a scraper. The resulting sound can be loud and varied, from the classic katydid, Katy didn't, to buzzes, clicks, and trills. These songs serve multiple functions. Males sing to attract females, advertising their location and quality. They also sing to establish territories, warning other males to stay away. Females often have preferences, choosing males based on song characteristics like loudness, pulse rate, or duration. In some species, males engage in singing duels, competing to outperform rivals. The songs carry information about the singer's size, age, and condition. For humans, these sounds are a soundtrack of warm weather, but for the insects, they're urgent communications in the contest for mates and survival. Honeybees alert the hive to danger with a vibration called the stop signal. Inside the complex society of a beehive, communication is constant and sophisticated. When a forager bee returns and performs her waggle dance to indicate a flower patch, she's recruiting others to the resource. But sometimes, a bee will interrupt this recruitment with a different signal, called the stop signal. She produces a brief vibration, a pulse that lasts a fraction of a second, by pressing her body against the dancing bee and vibrating. This tells the dancer to stop, that the food source is dangerous or not worth visiting. Perhaps a predator, like a spider or wasp, is lurking near the flowers. The stop signal acts as a veto, preventing the colony from sending more workers into harm's way. Researchers discovered this signal relatively recently, revealing yet another layer of bee communication. It shows that information in the hive flows both ways, with feedback loops and adjustments based on real-time conditions. The stop signal is a form of collective decision-making, where individual experiences shape group behavior, making the colony more adaptive and resilient. The hive is not a dictatorship but a democracy of sorts, where voices, even dissenting ones, can be heard. Some insects produce sounds by vibrating their body against surfaces. Not all insect communication is airborne. Many insects communicate through vibrations transmitted through the substrate they're standing on. A plant stem, a leaf, the ground. This is called substrate-borne communication, and it's widespread but often overlooked. Treehoppers, small insects that feed on plant sap, communicate by vibrating their abdomens, sending signals through the plant. These vibrations advertise for mates or coordinate group behavior. Caterpillars can produce vibrations that signal territory, ownership, or deter predators. Stink bugs tap their abdomens rhythmically, creating vibrations that travel through leaves. Predatory spiders hunting on the same plant can sometimes detect these vibrations and eavesdrop, locating their prey. The advantage of vibrational communication is that it's relatively private. Vibrations don't travel far through air, so they're less likely to attract predators or parasites than airborne sounds or pheromones. They also work in dense vegetation, where visual signals might be obscured and where sound might not carry well. Research into vibrational communication is revealing a hidden dimension of insect life, a world of signals traveling through the very plants insects live on, invisible and inaudible to us, but vital to them. Termites communicate by head-banging, creating vibrations that warn of threats. When danger threatens a termite colony, worker and soldier termites respond with a behavior that looks almost comical, but is deadly serious. They bang their heads against the tunnel walls. This head-banging creates vibrations that travel through the wood or soil, alerting other termites to danger. Termites are blind and live in darkness, so vibrational signals are ideal for communication. The vibrations trigger a rapid response, with termites either rushing to defend the breach or sealing themselves in deeper chambers. Soldier termites, with their enlarged heads and powerful mandibles, are often the first responders, using their bodies to block tunnels against invaders like ants. Some soldier termites have even evolved chemical defenses, spraying sticky or toxic secretions at attackers. The coordination of the colony's defense relies on these vibrational alarms. Similar signals may also be used in other contexts, coordinating, foraging, or nest maintenance. The study of termite communication is challenging because it occurs largely in enclosed spaces, underground or within wood, hidden from easy observation. Yet researchers using sensitive equipment have revealed a world of vibrational language, pulses and rhythms, conveying urgency and information through the architecture of the nest itself. Beetles and moths use pheromones that can be detected miles away. The sensitivity of insect antennae is extraordinary. Male silk moths can detect the sex pheromone of a female from several miles away, following an invisible scent trail through the night. Their large, feathery antennae are covered with thousands of receptor cells, each tuned to specific pheromone molecules. Even a few molecules binding to these receptors can trigger a response. The male begins flying upwind, zigzagging to stay within the pheromone plume. If he loses the scent, he casts back and forth until he picks it up again. This journey can take hours, with the male navigating through forests, over fields, guided only by scent. Bark beetles use aggregation pheromones to coordinate mass attacks on trees. When a few beetles find a suitable tree, they release pheromones that attract more beetles. As their numbers grow, so does the pheromone concentration, creating a positive feedback loop. Soon, hundreds or thousands of beetles converge, overwhelming the tree's defenses. This strategy allows beetles to attack large, healthy trees they couldn't take down individually. The long-range effectiveness of these pheromones makes them powerful tools, but also vulnerabilities. Scientists have developed pheromone-based traps and lures to monitor or control pest species, exploiting the insect's own communication against them. Insect behavior. Some ants enslave fungi, cultivating it as their only food source. The relationship between leafcutter ants and their fungus is so intimate that neither can survive without the other. The ants have been farming fungi for over 50 million years, long before humans invented agriculture. Inside their nests, the ants maintain chambers devoted to fungus cultivation. Workers bring in fresh leaf material, chew it into pulp, and add it to the fungus gardens. They manure the garden with their feces and weed out competing molds. The fungus grows, producing specialized structures that the ants harvest and feed to their larvae. The fungus depends entirely on the ants for cultivation and protection. The ants depend entirely on the fungus for nutrition, their digestive systems adapted to this diet. When a young queen leaves to start a new colony, she carries a small piece of fungus in a special pouch in her mouth. She'll use this starter culture to begin her own garden. If she loses it, she cannot establish a colony. This co-evolution has shaped both partners. The fungus has lost the ability to reproduce sexually and spread on its own. The ants have evolved specialized behaviors and anatomy for fungus farming. It's a partnership written in millions of years of shared history. Worker ants can pick up and move their entire colony if necessary. Ant colonies are not permanently rooted in place. If conditions deteriorate, if flooding threatens, if predators raid too often, a colony can relocate. This process is coordinated and efficient. Scouts search for a new nest site, evaluating potential locations. Once a suitable site is found, the scouts return and recruit other workers. Workers begin transporting brood, larvae, and pupae to the new nest. They carry eggs, immature ants, and even each other in a process called tandem running, where one ant leads another to the new location. The queen, too large to move quickly on her own, may be carried by workers. Food stores, if the species caches food, are also moved. The entire colony can relocate in a matter of hours or days, depending on size. Watching an ant colony move is like watching a city evacuate in miniature, orderly lines of workers carrying precious cargo, soldiers guarding the route, scouts directing traffic. Once the move is complete, the old nest is abandoned, and life resumes in the new location. This adaptability is part of what makes ants so successful. They're not tied to one place, but can respond to changing conditions with collective action. Some parasitic wasps can detect beetle larvae deep inside trees. The sensibilities of parasitic wasps are astounding. Certain wasps can locate beetle larvae, boring inside solid wood, hidden from sight and sound. The wasp lands on a tree trunk and begins tapping with her antennae, walking slowly, listening and feeling for vibrations. When a beetle larva chews wood, it creates subtle vibrations that travel through the trunk. The wasp detects these vibrations, pinpointing the larva's location. Once she's found her target, she uses her long, needle-like ovipositor to drill through the wood. This can take hours, the wasp slowly driving her ovipositor deeper, sometimes several inches into solid wood. Finally, she reaches the larva and injects her eggs. The wasp larvae will hatch and consume the beetle larva from within. This requires extraordinary sensory acuity and persistence. The wasp must distinguish beetle larva vibrations from other sounds, drill through wood precisely, and deliver her eggs accurately. It's a feat of biological engineering and determination. Researchers studying these wasps have gained insights into insect sensory systems and even inspired the design of medical devices. The wasp's ovipositor, flexible yet strong enough to penetrate wood, has properties that engineers study for creating better surgical needles. Insects can learn and remember, showing simple forms of intelligence. For a long time, insects were thought of as simple automatons, driven by instinct, without thought or memory. But research has revealed that many insects are capable of learning and remembering. Honeybees can learn to associate colors, shapes, and scents with food rewards. They remember which flowers are rewarding and return to them. They can even learn abstract concepts like sameness or difference, distinguishing between patterns based on whether elements are the same or different. Bumblebees can learn by watching other bumblebees, a form of social learning once thought limited to vertebrates. Fruit flies can be trained to avoid certain odors by pairing them with negative experiences. They remember these associations for days. Ants learn landmarks near their nests and use them to navigate. They form mental maps of their environment. Dragonflies learn the hunting territories of rivals and adjust their own behavior accordingly. These abilities don't require large brains. Insect nervous systems are small, containing fewer than 1 million neurons compared to our 86 billion, but they're efficient. Insects show that intelligence isn't about brain size, but about how neural circuits process information. They remind us that awareness and learning come in many forms. Some caterpillars can mimic bird droppings to avoid predators. Deception is a common strategy in nature, and caterpillars are masters of disguise. Many species have evolved to look unappetizing or uninteresting. One remarkable example is caterpillars that mimic bird droppings. These caterpillars are colored in shades of white, brown, and black, with irregular blotches that look like splattered feces. They rest motionless on leaves, in poses that enhance the illusion, curled or twisted to match the shape of a dropping. Birds and other predators, which hunt visually, pass them by, seeing only unappetizing waste. As the caterpillar grows larger, the disguise becomes less effective. A dropping that big would be unusual. At this point, some species change appearance entirely, transforming in later instars to resemble twigs or leaves. This ontogenetic color change is timed to match the caterpillar's size. Other caterpillars mimic unpalatable objects like rolled dead leaves or snake's heads. The sphinx moth caterpillar can inflate its thorax and display false eye spots, making it look like a small snake, startling predators. These deceptions are passive, requiring no action from the caterpillar except to remain still and let the disguise work. Yet they're highly effective, reducing predation and allowing these vulnerable creatures to survive long enough to pupate. Bees can recognize human faces and learn complex tasks. Bees have small brains, but they're capable of impressive feats. In experiments, bees have been trained to recognize human faces, distinguishing between photographs of different people. They learn by associating a particular face with a sugar reward. After training, they can pick out the rewarded face from a lineup, even when the photos are grayscale or modified. This suggests bees process visual information in complex ways, perhaps using configuration of features rather than simple pattern matching. Bees can also learn to navigate mazes, choose specific colors or patterns, and even play a simplified form of soccer, moving a ball to a goal to receive a reward. They can learn by observing other bees, demonstrating social learning. Researchers have shown that bees understand the concept of zero, a mathematical abstraction that was once thought unique to humans and a few other vertebrates. They can also perform simple arithmetic, adding or subtracting elements in a visual array. These discoveries have reshaped our understanding of insect cognition. They show that small brains can handle abstract thought and that intelligence is not the exclusive domain of large-brained animals. Bees remind us that complexity of thought doesn't always correlate with brain size. Insect evolution. Insects evolved from ancient arthropods that first left the sea. The story of insects begins in the ocean. Over 500 million years ago, arthropods, animals with jointed legs and segmented bodies, thrived in the seas. These early arthropods were diverse, including ancestors of modern crustaceans, horseshoe crabs, and eventually, insects. Around 400 million years ago, during the Silurian and Devonian periods, some arthropods made the transition from water to land. This was a monumental step, requiring adaptations for breathing air, supporting body weight without the buoyancy of water, and preventing desiccation. These pioneering arthropods gave rise to several lineages, including myriapods like centipedes and millipedes, arachnids like spiders and scorpions, and hexapods, the group that includes insects. The earliest insects were small, wingless, and likely fed on decaying plant matter and fungi. They thrived in the moist leaf litter of early forests. Over millions of years, they diversified, evolving the traits we associate with insects today: 6 legs, 3 body segments, compound eyes, and eventually, wings. Insect success on land reshaped terrestrial ecosystems, influencing plant evolution and creating niches for other animals. Their journey from sea to land is one of evolution's great success stories. Wings allowed insects to access new habitats and escape predators. The evolution of wings was a turning point in insect history. No other invertebrates have powered flight. How wings evolved is still debated. They may have originated from gill-like structures on aquatic ancestors, or from extensions of the thorax used for gliding or thermoregulation. Regardless of origin, once insects had functional wings, their possibilities exploded. Flight allowed insects to travel long distances, colonize new habitats, find mates over wider areas, and escape predators. Predatory insects could hunt more effectively, chasing prey through the air. Flight facilitated the colonization of islands and isolated regions. It allowed insects to exploit resources in the canopy, high above the ground. The evolution of flight is linked to insect diversification. Many of the most diverse insect orders, beetles, flies, bees, wasps, ants, butterflies, moths, are winged or descended from winged ancestors. Some insects have since lost wings, adapting to lifestyles where flight is unnecessary or even detrimental. But the ability to fly gave insects an edge that few other creatures possessed. Today, flying insects dominate the air, outnumbering flying vertebrates in both species and individuals. Insects co-evolved with flowering plants, driving diversification in both groups. Around 140 million years ago, flowering plants appeared and rapidly diversified. This event transformed terrestrial ecosystems and is closely tied to insect evolution. Flowers offered new resources, nectar and pollen. Insects that fed on these resources inadvertently carried pollen from flower to flower, facilitating plant reproduction. Plants that attracted pollinators more effectively produced more seeds. Insects that could access flower rewards more efficiently thrived. This mutualistic relationship drove co-evolution, with plants evolving traits to attract specific pollinators and insects evolving traits to exploit specific flowers. Bees evolved long tongues to reach nectar in tubular flowers. Butterflies developed coiled proboscises to sip from deep blooms. Flowers evolved colors, scents, and shapes tailored to their pollinators' preferences. Some relationships became highly specialized, with certain plants relying on single insect species. This co-evolution spurred diversification on both sides. The vast variety of flower shapes and colors is matched by the diversity of insect pollinators. This partnership is one of evolution's most successful collaborations, shaping the appearance and ecology of much of the living world. More insect evolution. Mass extinctions have tested insects, but they've always recovered. Earth has experienced several mass extinctions, catastrophic events that wiped out large percentages of species. The most famous, the asteroid impact 66 million years ago, killed the non-avian dinosaurs. Insects were affected too, but they survived and rebounded. In fact, Insects have weathered every major extinction event. Their small size, short generation times, and incredible diversity provide resilience. If one species goes extinct, many similar species remain. Their ability to exploit diverse food sources and habitats means that even drastic environmental changes leave some refuges where insects can persist. After each extinction, insects diversified to fill vacant ecological roles. The extinction of the dinosaurs opened opportunities for mammals and birds, which in turn created new niches for insects. Flowering plants' rise led to the diversification of pollinators. Insects and flowering plants filled the post-dinosaur world with new forms. Today, insects are arguably more diverse than ever. While some species have gone extinct due to human activity, as a group, insects remain robust. Their evolutionary history shows that adaptability and diversity are keys to survival. Some ancient insects were giants, with dragonflies the size of hawks. During the Carboniferous period, around 300 million years ago, the Earth's atmosphere contained more oxygen than today, possibly up to 35% compared to the current 21%. This oxygen-rich environment allowed insects to grow much larger. The giant dragonfly, Meganeura, had a wingspan of over 2 feet, as large as a hawk. Millipedes stretched over 6 feet long. These giants roamed forests of ferns and early trees. The reason for their size relates to how insects breathe. They don't have lungs, but a system of tubes called tracheae that carry oxygen directly to tissues. This system works well at small sizes, but as insects grow, it becomes less efficient because oxygen must diffuse through longer tubes. Higher atmospheric oxygen levels made it easier for oxygen to reach tissues, allowing insects to grow larger. As oxygen levels dropped in later periods, insect sizes decreased. Today's largest insects, like the Atlas moth or the Goliath beetle, are still impressive, but nothing like their ancient relatives. These giants remind us that the world has changed dramatically and that insects have adapted to those changes. Insects diversified rapidly, exploiting new niches as they evolved. The evolutionary history of insects is one of explosive diversification. Early on, they split into many lineages, each exploiting different lifestyles. Some became herbivores, feeding on plants. Others became predators, hunting fellow arthropods. Some turned to scavenging or parasitism. This ecological diversification was followed by morphological diversification. Different body plans, mouthparts, legs, and wings evolved to suit different tasks. Beetles hardened their front wings into protective covers. Flies reduced their hind wings to balancing organs for agile flight. Fleas lost their wings entirely and became specialized jumpers. The evolution of complete metamorphosis was another key innovation, allowing larvae and adults to exploit completely different resources. This reduced competition within species and allowed specialization. Insects also evolved social behaviors multiple times independently in ants, bees, wasps, and termites. Each innovation opened new possibilities, new ways of living. The result is the staggering diversity we see today. Insects are proof that evolution is opportunistic, that life finds ways to exploit every niche, every resource, every possibility. Insects and humans, silkworms, have been domesticated for thousands of years for their silk. The silkworm moth, Bombyx mori, is one of humanity's oldest domesticated animals. For over 5,000 years, people in China cultivated silkworms, harvesting the silk from their cocoons to weave fabric. Silkworms are the caterpillars of a moth that no longer exists in the wild. Millennia of selective breeding have made them entirely dependent on humans. They cannot fly well, don't fear predators, and their caterpillars feed only on mulberry leaves. To produce silk, farmers raise silkworms on trays of fresh mulberry leaves. When a caterpillar is ready to pupate, it spins a cocoon from a single continuous thread of silk, sometimes over 3,000 feet long. To harvest the silk, cocoons are boiled, killing the pupae inside and loosening the thread so it can be unwound and woven. This practice spread along the Silk Road, bringing silk to the Middle East and Europe, where it became a luxury fabric. Today, silk production continues, though synthetic fibers have reduced demand. The relationship between humans and silkworms is ancient and deep, a partnership where both species have been changed. The moth has become a living tool, and we have shaped its evolution as surely as nature does. Honeybees produce honey and wax, both valued by humans for millennia. Bees have been intertwined with human culture since ancient times. Honey, the concentrated nectar stored by bees, has been harvested by people for thousands of years. Cave paintings from Spain show honey hunters robbing wild bee nests. Ancient Egyptians kept bees in clay hives and used honey as food and medicine. Honey's natural preservative qualities made it valuable in a world without refrigeration. Beeswax, another bee product, was used for candles, sealing, and even early writing tablets. Today, beekeeping is a global industry. Beekeepers provide hives for bees, protect them from pests, and harvest honey and wax. Bees also provide pollination services, trucked from farm to pollinate crops. This relationship benefits both parties. Bees receive protection and sometimes supplemental feeding, while humans gain honey, wax, and crop pollination. However, honeybees face challenges. Diseases, parasites like varroa mites, pesticides, and habitat loss threaten colonies. Colony collapse disorder has devastated hives, causing bees to abandon them mysteriously. The health of honeybees is a concern not just for beekeepers but for agriculture, a reminder of how dependent we are on these small creatures. Locusts have caused devastating famines throughout human history. Few insects have had as dramatic an impact on human history as locusts. These grasshoppers can transform from solitary individuals into swarming plagues. When conditions are right, usually after rains in arid regions, locust populations explode. Crowding triggers a change in their behavior and physiology. They become gregarious, clustering together. They change color, becoming darker and more uniform. Their wings grow longer, and they become more active. Eventually, they take to the air in swarms that can contain billions of individuals and cover hundreds of square miles. These swarms descend on fields, devouring crops and vegetation. A swarm can eat the equivalent of food for tens of thousands of people in a single day. Historically, locust plagues have caused famines, toppled governments, and forced mass migrations. The Bible describes locust plagues in Egypt. In the 19th century, locusts in the United States formed swarms so dense they blocked out the sun. Today, monitoring and pesticide use reduce locust impacts, but swarms still occur, especially in Africa and the Middle East, threatening food security. Locusts are a reminder of nature's power and the fragile balance between abundance and disaster. Silk moths, cochineal insects, and lac insects provide valuable dyes and materials. Insects have been sources of dyes and materials for textiles and art for centuries. Cochineal insects, small-scale insects that feed on cactus in Central and South America, produce carminic acid, a brilliant red pigment. When the insects are dried and crushed, they yield a dye that was prized in the Aztec and Inca empires and became a valuable export to Europe. Cochineal red colored the robes of cardinals and the coats of British soldiers. Today, cochineal is still used as a natural food coloring and in cosmetics. Lac insects, found in Asia, secrete a resin called shellac, used as a wood finish, a sealant, and even in early phonograph records, shellac gave furniture a glossy finish and protected food. While synthetic alternatives have replaced many insect products, some industries still prefer the natural versions. These insects show that humans have long recognized the value in the insect world, finding uses for their secretions, their bodies, and their behaviors. The relationship is exploitative, but also reflects human ingenuity in utilizing the resources nature provides. Insects inspire biomimicry, influencing design in robotics and materials science. Engineers and designers study insects for inspiration, a field called biomimicry. The efficient flight of bees and flies has informed the design of tiny drones. Researchers studying how flies perform aerial maneuvers use that knowledge to build more agile flying robots. The water-repellent properties of insect exoskeletons, with their nanoscale structures, inspire coatings and fabrics that shed water. The way ants and bees navigate using simple rules has influenced algorithms for routing and optimization in computer science. The structure of butterfly wings, with their microscopic scales creating color through interference rather than pigment, inspires new display technologies and paints that don't fade. The ability of beetles to store and spray chemicals in bombardier beetles has informed the design of fuel injection systems. Velcro was invented after observing how burrs cling to fur with tiny hooks, a mechanism similar to how some insect larvae grip surfaces. Insects, with millions of years of evolutionary refinement, offer solutions to engineering problems we're only beginning to appreciate. By studying them, we learn not just about nature, but about design principles applicable to human technology. Insect farming could help address global food security challenges. As the human population grows, feeding everyone becomes more challenging. Traditional livestock like cattle are resource-intensive, requiring large amounts of land, water, and feed. Insects offer an alternative. They're highly efficient at converting feed into body mass. Crickets, for example, require a fraction of the feed, water, and space that cattle do to produce the same amount of protein. Insects are also nutritious, rich in protein, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. Many cultures around the world already eat insects regularly. In Thailand, fried crickets and grasshoppers are snacks. In Mexico, chapulines, toasted grasshoppers, are a traditional food. Insect farming is growing in some regions, with companies raising mealworms, crickets, and black soldier fly larvae for human consumption or animal feed. These insects can be fed on agricultural waste, turning plant material that would otherwise decompose into valuable protein. Environmental benefits include reduced greenhouse gas emissions and land use. Challenges remain, including cultural acceptance in Western countries and regulatory frameworks. Yet insect farming represents a sustainable protein source that could help feed a hungry planet. Threats to insects. Habitat loss reduces insect populations by destroying their homes. As humans expand cities, farms, and infrastructure, natural habitats shrink. Forests are cleared, wetlands drained, grasslands plowed. For insects, which often have specific habitat requirements, this loss is catastrophic. Many insects depend on particular plants, which may only grow in certain habitats. Butterfly species that need specific host plants for their caterpillars disappear when those plants are lost. Aquatic insects lose streams and ponds to damming, pollution, and development. Ground nesting bees disappear when soil is paved. Deforestation removes the canopy layers where countless insects live. Even seemingly minor changes like mowing wild areas, eliminating hedgerows, or replacing native plants with lawns, reduce insect habitat. Habitat fragmentation also matters. Small, isolated patches of habitat cannot support large populations. Insects may not be able to travel between patches, leading to inbreeding and local extinctions. Protecting and restoring habitat is crucial for insect conservation. Creating corridors between habitats, preserving native plants, and reducing habitat destruction can help insects persist. Gardening with native plants, leaving patches of wilderness, and avoiding pesticides in yards all contribute to preserving insect habitat. Pesticides, intended to kill pests, often harm beneficial insects too. Modern agriculture relies on pesticides to protect crops from insect damage. However, many pesticides are not selective. They kill a broad range of insects, not just the pests they target. Beneficial insects like pollinators, predators, and decomposers are affected. Neonicotinoids, a class of insecticides, have been linked to declines in bee populations. These chemicals can persist in the environment, contaminating pollen and nectar, affecting bees even in low doses. Sublethal exposure can impair navigation, foraging, and reproduction. Beyond bees, pesticides affect butterflies, beetles, and other non-target insects. Aquatic insects are vulnerable when runoff carries pesticides into streams and ponds. The decline of insect populations affects entire food webs. Birds and other animals that feed on insects suffer. Ecosystems lose the services insects provide. Organic farming and integrated pest management offer alternatives, using biological controls, crop rotation, and targeted applications to reduce pesticide use. Protecting insects requires balancing agricultural needs with environmental health, finding ways to feed people without poisoning the wider world. Climate change alters insect life cycles and distributions. As global temperatures rise, insects respond. Many insects are ectothermic, their body temperature influenced by the environment. Warmer temperatures can speed up development, allowing more generations per year. This can be beneficial or harmful. Pest species may become more numerous, but mismatches can occur. If an insect emerges earlier than the plants or prey it depends on, it may starve. Migratory insects may arrive at breeding grounds before food is available. Temperature changes can also shift insect ranges. Some species are moving poleward or to higher elevations, tracking their preferred climate. Others, unable to move or adapt quickly enough, face extinction. Changes in precipitation patterns affect insects too. Droughts reduce water availability for aquatic insects. Flooding can destroy nests. Shifts in seasons, like earlier springs, disrupt synchrony between insects and the plants they pollinate or feed on. Climate change is happening faster than many insects can adapt. Some species may find new habitats and thrive. Others will decline. The complexity of ecosystems means predicting outcomes is difficult. What's clear is that insects, so sensitive to environmental conditions, are already feeling the effects of a changing climate. Light pollution disrupts insect behavior and navigation. The night sky, once dark, is now lit by streetlights, buildings, and billboards. This artificial light affects insects profoundly. Many insects are attracted to lights, spiraling around bulbs until exhausted. Moths that would normally use the moon or stars for navigation are drawn to artificial sources, wasting energy and exposing themselves to predators. Some insects avoid light, and their habitats shrink as lit areas expand. Fireflies, whose courtship relies on bioluminescent signals, are disrupted by artificial light, which makes it harder for males and females to find each other. Light pollution affects pollinators that forage at night, altering when and where they visit flowers. Insects' internal clocks, which regulate behavior and development, are disrupted by constant light. The ecological consequences ripple outward. Bats that hunt night-flying insects are affected when insect behavior changes. Birds that migrate at night, using stars for navigation, are disoriented by city lights. Reducing light pollution by using shielded fixtures, lower intensity lights, and turning off unnecessary lights can help insects. Darkness, once taken for granted, is now recognized as an important environmental resource worth protecting. Insect populations are declining in many regions, a cause for concern. Recent studies have documented alarming declines in insect populations in various parts of the world. In some protected areas in Germany, flying insect biomass dropped by over 75% over 27 years. Butterfly populations in Europe and North America have declined significantly. Bumblebee species face extinction. These declines are attributed to multiple factors: habitat loss, pesticides, climate change, disease, and the combined effects of these stressors. The implications are profound. Insects are foundational to ecosystems. Their decline affects pollination, reducing crop yields and wild plant reproduction. It affects food webs, starving birds, bats, and other insectivores. It affects decomposition and nutrient cycling. An insect collapse could trigger cascading ecological failures. Some call it an insect apocalypse. Others caution against alarmism, noting that data are patchy and some insect groups may be stable or increasing. Regardless, the evidence of declines is strong enough to warrant concern and action. Conserving insects requires addressing root causes, protecting habitats, reducing pesticide use, combating climate change, and valuing insects as essential parts of nature, not just pests to eliminate. The wonder of insects. Insects have adapted to nearly every imaginable lifestyle, from the deepest caves to the highest mountains, from deserts to rainforests. Insects have found ways to survive and thrive. They eat nearly everything: plants, meat, blood, dung, wood, fungi, even other insects. They've evolved to be solitary or social, diurnal or nocturnal, predators or prey, generalists or specialists. Some live for only hours, others for decades. Some are smaller than a pinhead, others as large as a bird. They can be brightly colored or perfectly camouflaged, venomous or harmless, silent or loud. This diversity of lifestyles is unmatched in the animal kingdom. Every ecological niche has been filled by some insect. They've turned every conceivable challenge into an opportunity. Their success lies in their flexibility, their ability to adapt quickly through evolution, and their sheer numbers, which allow experimentation and survival even when most individuals fail. Insects are a testament to life's creativity, a demonstration that there's no single correct way to live, but countless strategies, each suited to its context. Every insect species plays a role in the intricate web of life. Ecosystems are networks of relationships, with each species connected to others through feeding, competition, symbiosis, or other interactions. Insects are nodes in these networks. A beetle boring into wood creates homes for other insects. A caterpillar feeding on a leaf is food for a bird, which is eaten by a hawk. A bee pollinating a flower ensures that plant reproduces, which provides food and habitat for countless other species. Remove one insect species, and the effects ripple outward. Some effects are immediate and obvious, others are subtle and delayed. Ecologists study these connections, trying to understand how ecosystems work. What they've found is that complexity and diversity provide stability. More species mean more redundancy, more pathways for energy and nutrients, more resilience against disturbance. Insects, with their enormous diversity, provide much of that complexity. Each species, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, contributes. The web of life is woven from countless threads, and insects form many of them. Studying insects reveals fundamental principles of biology and ecology. Insects are model organisms in science. Their short generation times and large populations make them ideal for studying evolution, genetics, and behavior. Fruit flies have been used in genetics research for over a century, leading to discoveries about inheritance, development, and disease. Honeybees have taught us about learning, memory, and social organization. Ants and termites have revealed how complex societies can emerge from simple rules. Studying insect physiology has informed our understanding of metabolism, respiration, and nervous systems. Insect development, especially metamorphosis, offers insights into how genes control growth and change. Ecology often uses insects because they respond quickly to environmental changes, making them indicators of ecosystem health. Pesticides, pollutants, and habitat alterations affect insects first, and studying them can warn of broader problems. Insects are also accessible. They can be studied in the field, in labs, or even in backyards. Citizen scientists contribute to insect research through monitoring programs. The lessons learned from insects apply broadly, informing biology, medicine, agriculture, and conservation. The diversity of insects reflects billions of years of evolution. When you look at an insect, you're seeing the result of an unimaginably long process. Insects have been evolving for over 400 million years, adapting to changing climates, continents, and ecosystems. Each species carries a history written in its DNA, shaped by selection pressures, random mutations, and the contingencies of survival. The exoskeleton, the compound eye, the wings, all these features were honed over eons. Even the smallest insect embodies complexity, the product of countless generations refining what works and discarding what doesn't. Evolution is not a ladder leading to perfection, but a branching tree, each tip representing a species alive today. Insects occupy countless branches. They've diverged, radiated, and specialized, exploring possibilities. Some have changed little, their ancient forms still successful. Others have transformed radically. The diversity you see in insect form, behavior, and ecology is evolution made visible. It's a living library of solutions to the problem of survival. Every insect is a success story, or it wouldn't be here. In their quiet way, insects shape the world around us. Insects may be small, but their collective impact is immense. They pollinate the majority of flowering plants, including crops that feed humanity. They decompose organic matter, recycling nutrients and preventing the accumulation of dead plants and animals. They aerate and enrich soil. They're food for countless other animals, supporting biodiversity up the food chain. They control pest populations through predation and parasitism. They've shaped the evolution of plants, influencing colors, scents, and structures. They've inspired human culture, appearing in art, mythology, and science. They've driven agricultural practices, medical discoveries, and technological innovations, and they continue to do so. Every day, in forests and fields, in gardens and wetlands, insects carry out their roles, unseen and unheralded but essential. They're the workers of the biosphere, the small hands that keep ecosystems running. Without them, the world would be unrecognizable. With them, life flourishes in all its abundance. Conclusion. And so, dear listener, our journey through the world of insects comes to a gentle close. From the ancient past, when they first crawled onto land, to the present, where they flutter, crawl, and fly all around us, insects have been constant companions of life on Earth. We've wandered through rainforests where leafcutter ants tend their gardens, across deserts where beetles collect water from fog, into hives where bees dance their maps, and beneath the soil where termites build their towers. We've witnessed the transformation of caterpillars into butterflies, the intricate songs of crickets under moonlight, and the silent coordination of ant colonies moving as one. We've seen insects as predators and prey, as architects and farmers, as dancers and warriors. The insect world is vast and varied, filled with wonders, both familiar and strange. These small creatures, often overlooked, are architects of the world we inhabit. They pollinate the flowers that brighten our days, decompose the fallen leaves that would otherwise pile endlessly, and feed the birds that sing each morning. They've survived extinctions, adapted to every climate, and diversified into forms beyond counting. Each one, from the smallest midge to the largest beetle, is a masterpiece of evolution, shaped by millions of years into perfect fitness for its role. As you lie here, letting your thoughts drift like a butterfly on a warm breeze, imagine yourself in a summer meadow. Picture the tall grass swaying gently, the wild flowers nodding in the sun. See the bees moving from bloom to bloom, their quiet hum a lullaby. Watch a butterfly land, its wings slowly opening and closing, painted in colors soft and bright. Hear the cricket's evening song beginning as the light fades, a rhythm as old as time. Feel the coolness of evening air, the peace of a world in balance, where every creature has its place and purpose. In this place, there is no rush, no worry. There is only the slow turning of the earth, the ancient rhythms of nature, the gentle persistence of life in all its forms. The insects continue their work, patient and tireless, weaving the fabric of the world one small thread at a time. The insect world reminds us that size does not determine significance, that complexity can arise from simplicity, that beauty exists in the smallest details, that survival requires not dominance but adaptation, not isolation but connection. These lessons, written in chitin and wing, in pheromone and dance, are available to anyone who pauses long enough to observe. The world of insects is always there, just beyond our doorstep, waiting to reveal its secrets to those who look with patient eyes. If you happen to still be awake, you can reflect on what we've discovered together, or simply let these thoughts dissolve into the quiet of the night. But if your eyes are growing heavy, if your breathing has deepened and slowed, then let the gentle world of insects cradle you into sleep. Imagine yourself small, resting on a soft leaf, surrounded by the quiet sounds of the garden at night. The distant chirp of crickets, the rustle of a beetle passing through the grass, the whisper of moth wings in the darkness. All is peaceful, all is well. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift into rest, into stillness, into the vast and gentle world where all creatures, large and small, find their place. Good night.